Hey, hello. Good morning, Amenaveve.
Good morning, Dr. Bunting.
How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
I am also fine. Thank you. Hi.
Okay.
Uh,
Um,
I'm just going to quickly set something up here. Hey, I wrote to the person who, remember the house you stayed at in Grant Park way back
yes.
in January?
Yeah.
It was like 2 lifetimes ago. Um, she said she has someone living in that house until the end of July. So I don't know if
There is no problem. Miss Deborah said I can stay at a place if I don't find a place to stay.
oh, she is wonderful.
Yeah. But I'm still looking for a place
Okay.
in the other state, and hopefully if I find something, it won't be necessary to go to disturb Miss Deborah at her place.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you can stay in the 112 Cortland until July 31st, you said, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I was afraid it was on the 27th. So,
No.
oh, good. Good morning, Mariam.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. How are you?
I am also good. Thank you.
Hello, Amina baby.
Hello, Mariam. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
Did you see my my email to you?
Thank you very much. Yes, I saw it. I was not sure where I should submit this summary response, you see, and then I asked Crystal. She told me you have to send an email. So
Yeah.
then I did a right thing?
Perfect. And it was a great summary response.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah, it was really good. I hope my comments, you saw all the color coding, right?
Yes, I saw the color coding, everything.
So colorful, yeah?
I always like you encourage me so much.
Oh.
And my husband is now reading my writing. He's saying, my goodness, you improved.
Oh, yeah, because it's been very strong. So that's great.
Thank you. And it's all because of you.
And, also I want to let you guys know we're going to have a timed writing this week.
Yes.
And that timed writing is going to be a summary response.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to give you a different essay that you have to read and then do a response. Exactly, just what you have already done, but with the different content.
Okay, great.
And we'll talk about that today.
So always the summary response essay is just 2 paragraphs, kind of.
Well, no, I mean, what I'm having it, I'm actually separating it out. So you have 1 paragraph that's a summary, 1 paragraph that's the response. However, I mean, for this, you're just reading a short essay. When you read something that's more in depth, like a journal article or something, your summary might be a little bit longer. The response might be longer. So it depends on what you're doing. I think it's really useful. To be honest, I actually think this is a great thing to do when, for example, if you're looking at sources for your essay,
yes,
I think it's a good idea to write a short summary of each of your sources. You don't necessarily have to do the response, but that's also good too, because that allows you to then have that. And I would keep that, and this is what I did as a graduate student. You keep that summary with the original article.
Oh, okay.
So that way, because for me, in my brain, things will come in and out. So if I go back a few weeks later or a few months later, I look at my summary, and it helps me remember what this thing was all about.
Oh, okay.
And it also helps you. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I do this with my son. He is 2nd grade, but he's going to 3rd grade. We did read books. So our goal was to read from the start of the quarantine till now 100 books. So we reached 60 books yet.
Nice.
And with the first 50 books, we was trying to retell the story and talk about it. But with the last 50 books, we were supposed to write about it. So we started from small sentences.
Yeah.
And yeah, so what's we are doing. So I'm a little bit, practicing with him, and it's helpful for me also.
Well, and also, I mean, it's effective, even if it's just one or two sentences, just to summarize it.
To summarize it.
Good morning, Mayameen. Mayameen? Maybe she ran to get a coffee. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good.
Good, good. I'm glad to hear it. Let me see here. Oh, it's almost time to get started. And everyone is doing okay?
Can I ask a question quickly?
Yes.
When somebody's saying us in English, how are you? Can I say I'm great, or I'm just saying I'm good? Which one is so much correct?
Depends how you're feeling. If you're feeling great, you can say I'm great.
Oh. Okay.
It's also very common. People just say, I'm fine. I'm fine.
I'm fine, yeah.
Hi, Ming.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Did you have a good weekend?
Yes.
Oh, good.
How about you?
It was good, actually. It was good. I actually did a lot of cleaning up, and I got to, actually, I haven't read your essays yet, because some of them were just still coming in now, the last few minutes. But your timed writings are all graded. So if you can check that, your timed writing from last week.
Yes.
And those were very good.
I checked that one, but it didn't come like for Turnitin, like the last two time writings that I have to see my mistakes and have to correct them. So well, I don't know what's the problem.
For this last one, I did not add a PDF file, okay. But if you click on the little box for Turnitin, you should be able to see all my comments, but it would be kind of live in Turnitin in their software.
I did that one. I don't know why it doesn't work, so I will try again.
Maybe after class, if you can stay a minute or two, you can share your screen and we can see why that's not happening.
That's great. Thank you.
Maybe I need to reset the settings.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's see. Oh, hi, Doris. Good morning, Doris. Oh, hi. Let's see here now. Let's see. Okay. So it's Tuesday morning. I asked you guys to read an essay for today, yes?
Yes.
Oh, good. Hi, Ju.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good.
It's wonderful to see you.
Nice to see you too.
I hope you had a good weekend. I'm sorry. Sometimes that happens, unfortunately. Well, listen, guys, I want to get started here, because I'm going to try and move through all of this, and maybe I can let you guys out a few minutes early, give you a little break. We'll see, because I always say that, but then it never happens. So we'll see what happens. So let us see here. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Well, first of all, I want to know, what do you guys think about this whole thing about TV violence?
Okay. I have some ideas since I have kids.
Tell me one of your ideas.
I came from Afghanistan, and I'm again so much about gun and violence and killing and fighting. So I try to do not expose my kids so much to these kind of stuff, especially my son. And when we come to US, I realize my son he's talking the same thing about the guns and fighting and stuff. I say, why? Where it come from? Then I see like all the YouTube is full of these things. The games are guns, shooting, killing, violence. And then I say, that's not right. Like, why the TV and these all social media is full of these things, and why people promoting this stuff, and why people like this stuff, and people are making money with it. And so I don't like it, and I don't know how to control it. I'm trying my best, but it's everywhere, everywhere.
Yeah.
So
Anybody else have thoughts about that?
Can I say something?
Yes.
I remember when I was a kid, my father don't allow us to watch some kind of cartoons or movies, and because sometimes you see the set a parental guidance on before the show starts.
Yeah.
So me, I'm raised in a Christian street African culture, so we know that when it's come to program that are not dedicated to kids, we have to leave the room and just let adults watch it. And while growing up, I see my elder sister who do the same with her two kids, and I think it was useful. She educated them like our parent raised us. So when they are watching a program and the parental guidance set up like a frame for the age, they know immediately that they have to leave, and they know that they don't have the right to go to internet and look for programs that are not quite good for them. I think this is this part, it is complicated, but you have to discuss with your children and let them understand the whole thing, that it is for their own good. You are doing that, and this is what my parents do with us. So yes, sometimes, kid can be tempted to go to see what is going on, especially when they go to school and they are listening to their classmate talking about this or that. They will be tempted to know what exactly it is.
Okay,
But
let me ask you a quick question, because what I hear you saying is you're saying that parents are the ones who are responsible for this. But is there anybody else who should be responsible?
No, I'm not saying that parents are responsible for TV violence. I don't know if I get you well.
Well, what I'm saying is, who's responsible for regulating what children can see?
Everybody, but
Can I regulate your children?
It can start.
I'm going to walk into your house and turn off the TV?
no.
It starts at home, and TV broadcasting company also have to do something, but it will start at home.
Okay, well that's a very good point. What about anybody else? Is there anyone else who you think should be able to regulate what this violence is? Besides parents? Hi, Doris.
Department of Communication.
Doris, there's something with your audio that's we can't hear. It's just making a lot of noise and not the voice is not working.
Let me see. I don't know.
Oh shoot! Nah.
Until she is coming, I would try to talk about. I did read the article, and it was a beautiful point that they are pointing that the government should also control. And I believe also, I have a very like kind of experience that in Afghanistan, because it was a war country, and the Taliban that stopped everything, and when everything come back, so that there was a lot of the media showed the stuff, the kind of way that people was not able to digest it. So a lot of young children, young kids are distract from their way, and the government should be doing to promote education more, to bring this education stuff. But in the opposite, they promote like a kind of a fun and enjoyment thing in the wrong ways, that the society aparts quickly and easier. So I believe if the government want to keep follow the society and youngster in a good way, they can. They have the power of social media.
Yeah.
And they
Okay.
they
Well, that's good. Ming, what do you think? Do you think the government should be involved in regulating what children watch?
Yes, I think so, because when I was a child in China, many like the violence drama is it doesn't allow to on the TV. So I think the government should control that.
Okay, good. And let me ask you guys a question. Ju, we're talking about children. Who are children? What's the age that you think this is we're talking about here? What age of children is this? Some people say I'm a child sometimes, by the way.
For me, I think it should be under 12.
Okay, so 12 years old. Do you guys agree 12? Like the government or parents, I think people have different views, should regulate for people under 12? What about when you get to have teenagers?
I think that teenagers should be more care about them, because they want to try everything, and I think they're more dangerous than the kids under 12.
Yeah, I agree with my opinion.
So teenagers also may need some controls, huh?
Right.
Yeah. It's a different thing. I mean, it's a complicated issue, as Amenuveve mentioned. It's very complicated because, you know, right now we're talking about violence, right? TV violence. But there are other things too that people want to regulate. You know, there are things about sex. There are things about ideas of how people approach authority. All of those things, and some people here might argue that if you start regulating one thing, it can move into all those other areas, which may be good or may be bad. Have you guys ever heard of a term called the slippery slope? I'm actually going to post that term because it's a very interesting term. The slippery slope, I just put it in the chat room. And the slippery slope means if you start with one small thing, it can lead to another thing, which can lead to more things. And sometimes people use that when they are trying to be persuasive, or if they're in an argument. And if you say, well, if we allow this one thing, then all these other things will happen. Now, sometimes that may be true. Sometimes it may not be true. But when people use that argument, they call it, this is the slippery slope. If you let one person do something, then everyone else will do it and everything will go very badly. Well, what about, you know, this is talking about TV violence. Do you think TV is really the biggest issue right now?
No.
Yes.
So I heard somebody say yes. So I also think I heard somebody say no. Anne, what do you think about other media? Anne, are you there? Anne?
Yeah, I'm there.
Are you packing?
No, not yet.
What do you think? What else besides television? What other media could be of a concern here?
Yeah, there are other medias like social media, but I know that maybe kids today don't listen to radio, but radio also can be dangerous because you can listen some things, and yeah,
Yeah.
definitively the problem today is maybe more social media because less and less children, no, less and less teenagers watch TV. So they are always on the social media, and they have to deal with some stuff like harassment. I don't know if it's the thing, harassment or bullying on social media.
Bullying.
Bullying, yeah.
Yeah.
On social
Yeah,
media.
there's all of those things. I mean, those are actually, those are also really important issues.
Yes.
You know, and it's weird because we talk about something like social media, we talk about television, and sometimes it seems like all of these things mix, right? Because in a way you can watch television on YouTube, you know, or Facebook or Instagram has things that link you to all these different things.
Yeah, and now we also have Netflix, Hulu, you know, it's the new television, so it's the same.
Yeah, yeah, and everything has sort of different rules, because there was a time for me, long before any of you were born, when there were just these 3 television networks that people could watch, and that was it here in the United States. And now there's just a whole range of things. And some of the things are what we call family friendly. And some of these things are adult oriented. And some of these things are just, you know, kind of terrible, really, between violence and inappropriate sex and all of that, you know, just very dehumanizing. And not only that, there's, as Anne pointed out, there's bullying, there's racism, there's stereotyping, all of these issues that sometimes one of the concern, well, why are we concerned if children or anybody, why are we concerned if they see violence? What is that? Who cares? They see some violence.
Because they tend to repeat it.
So Doris, you're saying they might repeat it, right? They might see that, and
they might not. They for sure repeat it.
So they see it and they repeat it. Yeah. Anything else? Is there any other concern that, I mean, part of it is they'll see something and then they're going to try and do it. What? Anything else about children seeing things like violence?
It's like when they see violence, for them it will be normal, you know.
Exactly, and we take that word and we turn it into a verb to normalize. Yeah, we normalize violence. You know, and one of the things right now in the United States, I think we're seeing some very, very interesting movements, and hopefully they're a collective, positive movement where we see people really challenging the normalization of violence, especially violence towards specific groups of people. You know, that if people are just saying this violence is normal, right now a lot of people are saying this violence is not normal, and but it's very hard. And television and the other media are really it's a big challenge to try and change that normalization. Well, guys, I'm gonna ask you to let me see if I can make this thing work. Thank you for that discussion. I believe you have you've been writing essays for me up until this morning for some of you.
It was so challenging.
Yeah. So what I want you to do is just for a minute, well, put in your head, what's the topic of your essay? And I want you to write your thesis statement in the chat room. Now, it doesn't have to be exactly what you have in your essay if you don't have it in front of you, but just what's the general idea? What is that thesis statement? So open up our chat room and write that down. Hopefully you just saw me post, write your thesis statement here. So take a minute and do that. I'm going to be quiet for a moment. We already have two great ones from Mayamin and Zara. Very nice. One of the things that they're showing us here, and I like this, is it doesn't have to be complicated. It's always nice to hear from Nathan, and that's a very nice thesis you've got there, Nathan. Very nice. That's nice, Doris. I don't know if I would use schoolers, maybe school children, something like that. That's good. Oh, Ming, very nice. All right, Jew. Oh, Bradley. You know, here in Georgia, gun control is a big deal. Or I should say, the big deal here is no gun control. I like how, for the most part, I don't see anyone including their own opinion here. That's good. Later on, for a slightly different essay, you are going to have to give us your opinion. But for this one, I think everything that I've seen so far, let me just see. Yeah, a lot of these, everything seems, it's just saying that there are the two sides. I would say, Amenoveve, I like what you've written here, and notice you've got the word should there. And should means that you are showing, actually, I love seeing a picture of my sons, but I'm going to put my video back on. Okay, hi. When you say pharmaceuticals should provide free or reduced costs, that is saying you have an opinion, or it tells me that if that's your thesis statement, this is going to be a persuasive essay rather than an analytical essay. And the way you could fix that to make it not arguing one position, even though I understand that position, you can say there is a controversy about whether pharmaceuticals should provide free or reduced cost medications. Do you see what I mean, Amenoveve?
Yes.
But it's very good information that you have. Now, I would have to say Anne has probably the most specific thesis statement here, because she is actually laying out the arguments in that statement for for both sides. And I actually think that that's one approach that you can take, and that's actually very nice, Anne. But notice how, compare Anne's to Bradley's. And Bradley's there are various reasons that show, and actually show on that show why people oppose or agree with gun control. His is very general. He's just saying there are two groups, they disagree. And he lets you know what the topic is. Whereas Anne is actually giving you the specific reasons from the start, and then she's going to expand on those reasons in the essay. Both of those are okay. Those are both good. And Mariam, let's see what we got. Again, very simple. Early childhood education, yes or no? Some people say yes, some people say no. And it may be, I'm just looking at yours, Mariam, that in your essay, make sure that you define what early childhood education is, because I think it can be many things to many people.
Yes.
And that would change that argument, I think.
It is a big field. It was so not easy to, to narrate it.
Yeah.
I tried my best. It was so many panic attack.
Well, maybe you can say something in favor of formal early childhood education.
It was about immigrants' childhood education. So I first tried to explain what is early childhood education. And then I explained it that why some people are in favor and some people are not. And then I put it how it affects an immigrant's children. The importance.
Yeah. Good. Well, I think it's going to be a very interesting thing to look at. I want to ask you all one important question. You all have found some sources, right? How many sources did I say you need for this essay?
3.
3?
Yes. At least 3, you said.
At least 3. I was hoping for 10, but 3 will be okay.
I just did 2.
Uh-oh. But one of the things that I want to ask you to think about when you wrote your rough draft, did you identify why your sources were important? Why we should listen to them? Or did you just say, John Bunting thinks that early childhood education is a good idea, but we don't know who John Bunting is? And if you did identify why we should listen to these people, why we should value them, how did you do that?
Mm.
Do you remember we looked a long time ago, back in May, it's hard to imagine, May of 2020, feels like it was 3 years ago, but it was this semester. What is one way that you can identify information about a source or any noun. Do you remember? It was one of my beautiful grammar words that I told you.
Reporting verbs?
Well, the reporting verbs you use to connect the source to the idea. But the other thing is you have to have something to let us know, for example, is somebody a professor at Harvard? Is someone a parent of 3 children? Things like that. And do you remember, and I'm going to post the word, do you remember the, oops, I think I just sent it to Nate just by himself. But Nate, you know it now. There it is. Do you remember that phrase, a positive? Maybe you remember the word. The big question, do you remember what it means? Remember, that's where we have a noun phrase that describes another one. So if I said, Doris Romero, comma, owner of an early childhood program, comma, is developing a new plan for fall 2020. That little phrase, owner of a early childhood program, that's the appositive. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I wonder if you used any of those in your essay. I hope so. But I also, you know, I love that grammar topic, but I love all grammar. I'm an equal opportunity grammarian. So I'm going to share with you another little thing about grammar. And you'll see a little bit later, this is very much connected to appositives. We're going to look at, if you look at my screen, non-identifying relative clauses. Another beautiful grammar term. So what is it? And this is all in your book in Unit 18. So the non-identifying relative clauses provide extra information about a noun phrase. We often will use those to describe or identify a proper noun or organization when we're citing them. So it's not enough just to cite something. You have to let me know, why should we listen to this? Why should we listen to this source? If it's just somebody who doesn't have any experience or any knowledge, then their opinion is no better than anyone else. So the relative clause can add credibility to the expert or organization. And this is in the same purpose as the appositive. Here's an example. The Federal Communications Commission, or the FCC, and notice, and then we have comma, which regulates radio, TV, and internet communications, comma, has condemned violence in children's programming. So if you just said the FCC condemns violence, but you're like, well, what's the FCC? As a good writer, I've now told you what they're doing. They're the people that regulate this. Parents, who one could argue have the most influence on young children, must limit their children's exposure to violence. Now here it's a little bit different, because what we're doing here is, as a writer, I'm providing you extra information about why we should listen to parents. I think, and other people have said, they're the ones with the most influence. And I think you probably all would agree. Parents have a big influence. But notice, instead of creating a separate sentence to say parents have a lot of influence, they must limit this. We've combined these effectively. Now, non-identifying relative clauses are just adding extra details about that noun. And they begin with what we call the relative pronoun. And that can be who, which, whose, or whom. And you use a comma before and after the clause when it is non-identifying. So here, and that's just where you give extra information. The National Institute of Mental Health, comma, which is a government agency, comma, conducts research on the effects of violence on children. There, that you're adding extra information about that now. Now, the thing about the non-identifying relative clause is it's extra. So this one here, Bushman and Anderson, who are on the faculty of Iowa State University, have written extensively on violence. it means the same thing if you just get rid of it. Bushman and Anderson have written extensively on violence. The meaning doesn't change. We just added a little bit of extra meaning. And it's interesting, these non-identifying relative clauses are very common in writing, especially academic writing, but really not so much in speaking. In part because in speaking, we sort of just give short sentences, or short phrases even sometimes. So this kind of description of this doctor would not be, you wouldn't typically say this, but you would write it. In speaking, you'd probably just give first the idea and then the other. Now, when you're using these, you don't use the word that, even though you can use it in some other relative clauses. And you cannot just eliminate it. So the American Academic of Pediatrics, which is a prominent group of medical professionals, has several suggestions about television violence. Perfect. But you can't use the word that. The American Academy of Pediatrics, that is a prominent group of medical professionals. Don't do that. And you can't just delete the relative pronoun, because then it becomes a comma splice and it's all that bad grammar. As I was mentioning, this is a great way to add credibility to a source that you are writing about. And here's one example about Susan Levinson, who is the president of Advocates for Children and Youth, is on the faculty of the University of Maryland School of Law. And here's another example. This tells you more information that explains to your reader why we should listen to these experts. And as we just mentioned, it's very similar to an appositive. And that's back in Unit 12 if you want to take a look at it. And typically, an appositive is a better choice if it's just the verb to be. So notice if you look at the example for Susan P. Leviton, and it says, who is the president? Just delete who is, and that's okay, because then you make it an appositive, the president of the Advocates for Children and Youth. Okay? Does that look good?
What's the difference between using this phrase with a comma, 2 commas, and without comma?
Oh, I was afraid you were going to ask that. Oh. If you
want information, but I'm not sure about it. I can share it.
It's a great question, and we're actually going to be looking at that a little bit later. If you don't use commas, it is an identifying relative clause. And I'm going to give you, on Thursday, I'm going to give you more information about that because it is different. For example, notice I can say, my student, comma, who is traveling to France, comma, has been a great person to know. That's this non-identifying relative clause. Because I could also just say, my student has been a great person to know. But if I have a whole group of students, like we have here, I may want to try to use that information to identify the student. That's when you remove the commas. And you can say, my student who's going to France has been a great person to know. No commas, and now we're saying, the writer, me, is saying, I have a whole group of students. But only one of them is going to France, and that's the one I'm talking about. Do you guys know who I'm talking about, by the way?
Nathan.
Oh, très bien.
It's Anne or Nathan?
Wait, Nathan, you're going to France?
Not now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was sure it's Anne.
Yeah.
This is me.
Yeah. So, and we all wish you a safe journey.
Thank you, thank you. I wish me too.
Yeah, and it's all going to be wonderful, and we're also going to get to still see you, which I'm very happy about. But don't forget us once you get to France.
No, don't worry. You don't forget me.
Oh no, I won't forget you. I may even give you extra homework as a
next year. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, but Zara, you were asking the question about the commas,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And that's a really good question. And I'm going to give you examples of how to sort of tell that difference in our next class. I'm not going to go into it in great detail now, but we will go into it because they are quite different. The thing to remember about these that we're looking at now that have the commas is it's extra information.
Can I say the information that I know?
Pardon?
I remember one teacher told us if we have two comma, this means the information everyone should know it before. So it's like it's not that important. But when we don't use a comma, it means a new information. Maybe no one know about
Well,
it.
I'm going to have to disagree respectfully because it can still be new information, but what it does do is without the commas, you're identifying it. You're identifying that person. So, and like I say, if I say the student who is living in Saudi Arabia right now has been a great writer. So the student who has been living in Saudi Arabia, I'm saying I've got 12 students here, but I'm identifying that one student. I could just say Zara, right? But instead I'm going to say the student who's living in Saudi Arabia. Now, the thing without commas, you almost never use that if you're going to use the actual name of the person. I wouldn't say Zara, who's living in Saudi Arabia right now, is a great writer. No, you have to use the commas because it becomes extra information. Because I already know who it is. It's Zara. So but the information in what we're looking at today, all of that information is still, and it should be new information for your reader, and that's why you're putting that information in. But it's not essential to the understanding of the overall sentence. Because if I say Susan Leviton is on the faculty of the University of Maryland, we have all the information we need. I'm going to give you a little extra information that I hope will be new to you and also make my argument more powerful, my writing clearer. But we'll look more on Thursday. I'm going to bring you in some things outside of what we're looking at in this unit about that other one. So I'm glad you brought that up, Zara. Oh, here we go. So we have a couple of things that I would like you to just try out here. Here's two sentences. Jason Edwards reports that the effect of violent content on adolescents depends on how it is portrayed. Now, by the way, some people will say sometimes violence in comedy, where it's clearly not real, is a little bit different than violence when it's presented like a documentary and it's being real. But anyway, Jason Edwards is an assistant professor of communication at Bradford College. So it's important, it's good for us to know that information, but it doesn't really change the meaning of that first sentence. So to add that information, and instead of just having two separate sentences, you want to combine the ideas. You'd say Jason Edwards, who's an assistant professor of communication at Bradford College, commas, reports that the effect of violent content on adolescents depends on how it's portrayed. Now, what I would like you to do with a pencil, or if you're really into technology, you can do it on your computer. I want you to take those next two examples and combine them. So for number 2, combine the first sentence about a child who watches 2 hours with the second sentence about the Phillips Family Foundation. Then the next one about parents and Joanna Moore. So I'll be quiet, give you a couple minutes to write those. as Zara and Anne have done, feel free to post what you're writing for either one of these or both in the chat room. It's interesting, both of them have, actually, these are really nice. What they've written already is really good, but I'll be quiet. Bradley has written something very nice. He's actually using an appositive because he removed which is, and he just listed it as an appositive. That's not a relative clause, but it's still a good way to do it. The way Amenuveve wrote it, and the way Amenuveve wrote it is a relative clause. Anne's is also an appositive. Zara's is a relative clause. And if you have something, you can post it up in the chat room. Nice, Mayamin. Great, Mariam. Remember, foundation is singular, so you want to say points out with an S at the end of point. I really like Mayamin's use of based on research by. That's good. Doris, I like yours. However, because foundation is an organization and not a person, you wouldn't use the word who, you would use which. Okay?
Which? Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
If it was one person, you would say who.
Okay.
And if it's an organization. And Doris, be careful where you have that phrase based on research. You'd have to modify that and say something like the Phillips Family Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization, has research. You have to modify that language. Let me see how it would be.
Where's mine? I don't know.
Has research that shows that a child who watches 2 hours of TV.
Okay.
And isn't that amazing? 10,000 acts of violence a year. Oh my God. My goodness.
Where do you say that I have to correct the sentence?
The phrase based on research aware. You just want to say the Phillips Family Foundation
Which
has research, or in there, which is a nonprofit organization. Then you can say
research.
that shows that a child who watches 2 hours.
Mm.
And Zara, I think you don't need to say a researcher. You would just say research by the Phillips Family Foundation, comma, which is a nonprofit organization, comma, shows that a child who watches 2 hours.
I didn't think about it.
Ming, that one's perfect. That's an appositive. That's not a relative clause, but it's an appositive, and that's good. But if you wanted to make it, the relative clause has that pronoun and a verb. But because of the pronoun and verb is which is, you can remove that and have it just as you wrote, just as you put it. So it's what you have is good. Okay. It's just not a relative clause, but it is good. It's actually, okay. I think it's even better. Nice, Nathan. Very nice. And Mayameen, perfect. So let me see what I have. Now I put everything, I kind of kept the first sentence exactly the way it was, and I just added at the, and this is the thing, these relative clauses and the appositives need to always go right after the noun that they're modifying. So you can see here, I actually put them at the end of the sentence. But what you guys have is actually really good too. And remember, one of the things that you want to think about as a writer is how you are putting words in order, like the ideas. So, for example, I ended my sentences with the information about the organization or about Joanna Moore. Maybe as a writer, that's not the best thing. What you guys have, I think, is better because you're actually going to end your sentence with the information, which is what you're really writing about. So I like that you guys did that. That's nice, Mariam. And that's in a positive as well, but that works in this case. There are more of these exercises in your book, and I encourage you to do them, but I'm not going to do more of those now in class. Wonderful, anyway. But I encourage you to practice them and let me know if you have any questions. Guys, I also have to mention, I think at the very beginning of our semester, I said I was going to give you a break in the middle, and I don't think I ever have. I hope you can forgive me, because we're not going on a break now. We're in the middle of grammar. We can't stop. All right. I actually wanted, this is something we're going to move. Any questions before we move away from those relative clauses?
Yeah. Some sentence you say it is not a relative clause. When I read it, I didn't see why it's not. What's wrong with it?
Oh, which one? The one that you wrote?
No, I think Ming wrote something.
Yeah, if you look at Ming's, where it says the Phillips Family Foundation, comma, a nonprofit organization that focuses on health issues, comma, reports that children who watch 2 hours of TV are affected by 10,000 acts. That phrase, a nonprofit organization that focuses on health issues, that's an appositive. So because you notice there's nothing before a nonprofit organization. However, you can see, if you look at right underneath that, Nate's sentence about Joanna Moore, according to Joanna Moore, comma, who is the mother of 5 teenagers, comma, parents should discuss the content of TV advertising. The who is what makes it a relative clause, because you have to have the relative pronoun and a verb. And really, yeah, yes?
Sorry, but when you show us the grammar, I remember one sentence. I think there is no who is. It just starts with like what Ming did.
The only one that would probably have that is, let me see here. Can I get back there? You see my screen, yes?
Yeah.
The one at the very bottom,
yeah,
where it says Adam Thierry,
mm-hmm.
that doesn't have the relative clause and the verb, that is an appositive.
Oh, okay.
But all the other ones have, you can see it has which has, who is,
Yeah.
which is. So that one, and the thing is, and I actually prefer, if the verb is the verb to be, I think it's better and shorter and more effective to use an appositive. So the relative clause here is better if you're describing an action. So for example, John Bunting, comma, who researched teacher stereotypes, comma. Because you're using the verb to research, it's better to use the relative clause. If you just want to say John Bunting, comma, a lecturer at Georgia State, comma, you don't have to say who is a lecturer. The who is not always necessary.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, it's a great question what you asked. But now I want to talk to you about something a little bit different, which is, and this I think is really important as you are writing as you're going to be revising your rough draft, and then also for your final exam when I ask you to write something that is persuasive, it's avoiding overgeneralization. What does that mean? What is overgeneralization?
Maybe we just have to be more general.
Well, let me tell you something. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to educate you all. All students love homework.
Oh yeah, that's all I did.
It's true. All students love homework, right? Do you agree?
No? I
well,
disagree in polite.
You disagree politely?
Yeah.
Well, when we have to be very careful that we don't overgeneralize. And I'm going to tell you something. My wife is from a country that's not the United States. And sometimes people here in the United States, if they learn that you're from another country, they'll say, oh, I know all about your country. People from this country do this. And let me tell you, that drives my wife crazy. Because just like the United States and every other country, there's a lot of diversity everywhere. So to say that all people from this group are doing all the same thing, sometimes, for one thing, it can be cruel. It can be it can be cruel. It can be dehumanizing. It can, disregard the individual, and also, it's false. It's not true. And part of being effective academic writers is we value the truth as best that we can figure out what the truth is. So we want to make sure when you're presenting, either argument about your controversy, and then later when you're trying to persuade me about your position, you want to make sure you don't overgeneralize. And let me tell you, maybe it's not true that all students love homework. But what is true, all students love my homework.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay. It's still a overgeneralization. All right, let's see what we got here. So, when you're going to be writing about controversies or when you want to be persuasive, you need to provide facts. And it's important to use language accurately when you are expressing those facts. There are a lot of useful phrases that limit overgeneralizations and make your claim more accurate and also more credible. You're considered to be more effective if you are being accurate. Limiting claims has another term, and that's called hedging. So you hedge by using some of this terminology so that you're not overgeneralizing. So here are some examples. Yes?
What's the other word?
Hedging.
Could
To
you
hedge.
please?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hedging is when you say something, but you realize I can't say absolutely. you know? So,
Yeah.
and that's the term we use is hedging. So here's an example. This statement causes arguments. Instead of doing that, you can say this statement is likely to cause arguments. Television violence is everywhere. Well, television violence seems to be everywhere. Parents try to control what their children watch on TV. Well, you think about it, there are some parents that don't do that. Maybe most do, but not all. So you say, in most cases, parents try to control what their children watch. When you're writing, especially if you are going to, when you're revising your own writing, you want to be aware of any statements that you're making that are not accurate in that sense and fix them. So here are some strategies. We can use phrases like seem, appear, tend, and be likely, plus an infinitive verb to show that something is possible but not certain, or to indicate something is not true every single time. Seem is the most common verb used in academic writing. So here we say, experts who study violence seem to disagree with one another's conclusions. Now this means we don't know all the experts who study violence because we don't have absolute knowledge. But from what we have read, it seems like they don't agree, or the ones that I have read, they disagree. Children who watch many hours of TV every day are likely to be exposed to violent programs. Now, my assumption is it's children, if they're watching TV, they're going to see some violence. But that's not always true because there are some parents who are so careful with their children that they make sure they don't watch violent shows, even though they're watching television. So you don't want to say absolutely everyone because that's very rarely true. We can also use it constructions. One of the things that you guys did a really nice job on, by the way, using it constructions, like it seems that or it appears that. When you believe that something is a trend, but you don't have enough evidence to be super, really, really strong about it. It seems that parents are becoming more cautious about what programs their children watch on TV. So maybe that's the things that I've been reading, the things I've been researching, it's pointing in that direction, but I can't say it absolutely certain. Okay, so these are good strategies. These are good vocabulary items for you to use. Another option is to use these kind of extra phrases outside of the main clause. In most cases, mainly, typically. So in most cases, children can tell the the difference between cartoon violence and real violence. In most cases. Sadly, not in all cases, but in some they can. Children will typically show higher levels of aggression after watching violence on TV. There may be some children who, if they see violence on TV, they withdraw or they become less aggressive. But it seems that the typical response is they become more aggressive if they see violence.
So when we say typically, does this mean usually?
Yeah, it's like that, usually, exactly. The only thing I would say usually is more talking about a repeated event for one individual. So for example, John usually gives us homework at the end of each class. Whereas you would say, IEP teachers typically give homework for every weekend, thereby destroying our weekends. We seem to be, don't we? Anyway, and then according to is another way. It's actually, this is a little bit of a combination, but it does minimize as a writer, your statement of something being absolute. You may read something where someone makes an absolute statement and you can repeat that claim, but you have to make sure you're saying, according to this person, they're making this big claim. So according to the report, the television industry is not policing itself. to the satisfaction of parents. So even though that's really a very kind of a blanket statement, but if that's what it says in the report, you can report that. But you don't want it to seem like it's your idea that you're overstating. So here, I'm going to ask you to take a couple of minutes and see what you can do about these statements. In this first example, many parents and teachers believe children should not be exposed to any violence, any kind of violence in the media. And this is a trend, but there's not enough evidence to support this. So one of the things you could do is say, it appears that many parents and teachers believe children should not be exposed to any kind of violence. So we're hedging because we're saying that's just an appearance. I can't say it's absolutely a fact. I want you to look at number 2 and number 3 and write down what you think you would do to hedge for those claims. Children are taught to deny their feelings of violence. Adults attempt to repress any violent reactions they have. So take a minute. I'm going to disappear for a second while you get to write. And I'm going to ask you to post these in here. There's no one correct answer here. So we'll see what you guys come up with. Any questions? These are looking good. Bradley. Good morning, Bradley. How are you? Bradley.
Morning.
Hello, how are you? I want to point out something, Bradley, where you say most of adults. Let's not use the most of. If you wanted to use most of, you would have to say most of the adults we talk to or something like that. You can just say most adults. Okay?
Most of them. Okay.
Maya means it appears that many adults attempt to repress any violent reaction. That's perfect. Zara, it appears that adults attempt to repress any violent reactions they have. Perfect. Mariam, typically adults attempt to repress any violent reaction they have. Yeah, that's good too. Yeah. Nate, it seems that many children are taught to deny their feelings of violence. Good. And Amenu Veve, she posted this privately, but it says, it seems like children are taught to deny their feelings of violence. That's actually good too. So you can see, it seems like. Zara, in most cases, children are taught to deny their feelings. Yep. Or many children are taught. Yeah. And Nate says, most adults attempt to repress any violent reaction. Nice. Bradley's, yours was good, but there's that word of. Maya means is good. Doris, it seems that some children are taught to deny their feelings. Nice. Now, one of the things that's nice about what Doris has done here is she actually added a couple of things. It seems that, and then she put some, and that's good. You know, it's okay to have a couple of things to soften the claim, especially if it's something that you're not really sure that the other research really supports it or something like that. So that's nice. And then she added at the very end, but it cannot be generalized. Don't forget to put a D at the end of generalized. But it's, I don't know if you really need to add that unless you feel that it's something that's a stereotype. So for example, if people are talking about, and I know somebody was talking, I think Mariam was talking about immigrant children. And if there's a stereotype, a negative stereotype that immigrant children are violent or something, then you would want to really emphasize, it seems that children have this thing, but you want to then really emphasize, but you can't generalize. You can't throw a whole group in there. Typically, that's when people have been doing that to a very negative effect for that group. Because one of the things as academic writers is we want to be very sensitive to avoiding playing into stereotypes, whether it's about gender, sex, nationality, race, all of those things. We want to be very careful that we are respectful of everyone and that we base things on facts and not on stereotypes or myths. Children are likely taught to, nice, that's very nice, Miriam. Well, I like this so much, I'm gonna ask you guys to do a few more because I think these are very important. So take a minute and then post one or two of the things that you come up with here. Once again, I'll just be quiet, even though I love to talk. I like what you have there, Zara. Remember, you can also say, according to some experts, or some experts. Yeah, according to some experts claim. If you really don't like it, you can say some experts allege that, and that minimizes it even more. I can't wait to see what Chu is going to write here. Oh, I know it's going to be good. And I know something good is coming. Ming, I know it's coming. It's going to be great. Bradley just posted a very nice one. And for the one that Bradley posted, which is number 5, see if there's another way, because we're saying it's possible, but there's not enough research to back it up. Is there another way that you can say it to make it even softer? Very nice, Mariam. The only thing, Mariam, is it really about most cases? Make sure you look at what's in the parentheses and think, what's the best way to sort of give that feeling to my reader?
Okay.
Oh, Emenuveve, always nice to see you there. I like that, Zara. It's likely. You know, you could even make it weaker. It's possible that, but even though that wasn't one of the ones. Seems that video game good. Good, Mayamin. Remember, Amenuveve, in most cases, there's Anne.
It is less likely.
Well, you can say, if you say it's possible, that's a lower chance than likely.
We can say it's possible that video games priority hers as violence.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
We can say it's possible that video games priority hers as violence.
Yeah, you could say that. It is possible. Let me see which one that is. The one about, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is possible that. And notice, because they're saying it's not true all the time, you can make a choice, kind of like what Doris did earlier, where she added a couple things. You could say it is possible that some video games portray heroes as violent. Or it's possible that video games portray some heroes as violent. Again, it depends a little bit on the content. Excellent, Anne. Anne, that's a really nice one. Ming, I love it. In most of the cases, many violent video games. Good. One of the things, too, is you can also think, again, this will go back to what Doris had written before, where you may want to add a couple of things to hedge. So, for example, for Ming, in most of the cases, many violent video games seem to provide players with an outlet. But what you have there is good, Ming. That's good. And let's see, Doris. Remember, Doris, you have
I don't know
to have,
where I put the comma.
yeah, no comma there. And also,
Okay.
if you're gonna, you can talk about research, which is not countable, or you can, so actually, yeah, just get rid of the ES. Some research has been shown better still, has shown that violent video games provide players with an outlet for feeling. Yeah.
So
that was,
how
so research
so
is uncountable.
research is
No ES.
no yes?
No, it's just some research.
Oh.
Yeah. And then
Or in that case, we have to use has.
it'll be has. It stays singular.
Has.
Yeah.
Okay, it stays singular. But it's like, because it's uncountable, so
Exactly.
that it means that we can use as a plural and singular. I mean,
No, remember, it's uncountable. Research is uncountable, so it's never going to be plural.
plural. Okay.
Never.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Let's see what we got. Nate. Oh, Nate, it seems to appear. You know, it's interesting, Nate. I wouldn't combine the seems and appears. It's just say it appears that or it seems that, but don't say it seems to appear.
Okay.
Okay. The violent video games provide players. Now you could say that violent video games sometimes provide players if you wanted to, or may provide video players with outlets. It seems that violent video games provide players with a nice, Chew, nice, very nice. It is likely that constant denial. It is likely. Yeah, perfect. Yep. Is likely. Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be okay. Yep.
Yes, in the parentheses they said it's very possible, but
right.
it is not certain.
Yeah, no, so I like what you have. I think actually that's a really good way to do it, Zara. It appears that violent video games provide players with an outlet for feeling. Nice, Mariam. Typically, oh good, nice, Zara. Typically video games portray heroes as violent. Beautiful. That's nice. Actually, that's a really good one there, Zara. Oh, nice. So you see here, let me come back here. You've seen enough of my two sons. Hello. One of the things, pardon?
Who's the oldest?
Let me tell you. Even though that guy with the red hat is the tallest, he is the young.
Okay. I knew
the guy, he's even got a little Georgia State t-shirt on. That's my older son. He's 22. And my younger son, who's taller than I am, and his hair makes him even taller. He's 19.
But in that photo, they were like 15 and 12.
No. In that photo, they're like, that was like a year ago. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my
18
goodness.
and 21. Very youthful. All right, we're gonna say goodbye to those guys. Bye, guys. All right. So what I wanted to mention is this is the kind of information, what you're doing right now is the kind of revision work that you should do after you've, like, let's say you submit your rough draft, and then when you get you're going to back and you're working on it, or you're revising before you turn something in, you want to look at this and see, am I making any overgeneralizations? Are any of my statements too broad? And then you fix it using these strategies.
I have this.
Yeah, I don't think you have to worry about it as much when you're first writing, but before you turn it in and you're thinking, you're reviewing it, that's when you have to say, oh, you know what? It sounds here like I'm saying every child is going to be violent. That's not what I mean to say. I want to say it appears that children who watch too much violent TV will have problems later on. Okay?
Yes.
Any questions before we move on?
I like this grammar more than the one that's before.
Now, I have another thing here. I want you to write one sentence about your essay topic that shows me that you are avoiding overgeneralization. Now, I know you guys have a lot of things. For example, some of you are writing about guns, right? A statement I often see is that people will write and say, people in the United States love guns. Is that true?
No, it seems that.
Yeah, it seems that way, doesn't it? Well, so what I want you to do is I want you to take some idea that you have in your essay, and you can give me an example, of how you can show that something you are not overgeneralizing. Here's my example. You know, one of the things when I was looking at immigration is people that don't know immigrants think they're all bad. That's sort of what my thought was. You know, people who are living in small towns, they've never seen anybody from another country. They're scared. They don't like them. They don't want any immigrants around because they don't know anybody. But that's not really true completely. So I had to revise it and say, some people in the US who live in isolated communities may believe that immigrants do not have a positive impact, right? So notice I've softened it. I'm not saying everybody in small towns. I'm not saying that they all believe it. I'm saying that some people may believe that. So what I want you to do is take a few minutes, think about the topic that you've been writing about, and give me a statement that is not an overgeneralization about one of the controversial components of what you're writing about. All parents hate the idea of a 12-month school year.
What does this topic mean?
Pardon?
This topic, what does this topic mean? Actually, I didn't understand it.
Well,
About
what I want you
12
to do
months.
is I want you to write about your topic. Zara, what topic did you write about?
Georgia State should have online classes.
Yeah. So, for example, if you said all students want face-to-face classes, that's an overgeneralization, right?
Yeah.
So
I already wrote one in the chat room.
Excuse me, teacher, can you continue? What was you saying?
Zara, that's beautiful. Okay. So what it is I want you to write one sentence about your essay topic,
Yeah.
Nathan. And you can see Zara has written one here.
And
And I think Mariam has written one here. Is that yours?
Yes.
Most people do not understand these, right? Beautiful. So Nathan, what I want everybody to do is write one sentence about your topic. What are you writing about, Nathan? Was yours about online? No.
No, university students should live on campus.
That's right, living on campus. So, you know, some people might say university students who live on campus will drink beer every night. That's one stereotype here. Or they will go to parties every night. Or they will never sleep. So what I want you to do, yeah. Now, Bradley, I want you to go more specific than that. It's not your thesis statement. I want you to think about something else that was from one side or another from your essay. So for example, Zara is talking about how people can't focus in front of their computers. And Zara, is it all students? All students cannot focus?
No, I said it seems that.
But one of the things you want to think about as you're trying to figure out the overgeneralizations is, you know, you've done, it seems that, but then do you want to say most students, many students?
Oh yeah, many
You see what
students.
I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Bradley, I want you to come up with something more specific. Some may argue that providing free medication. Oh, interesting. That's nice, Amene Baby. I like that. Now, Nate, that's your thesis statement. I want something more specific. So think about what you wrote in your paragraphs, in your essay.
Like an idea. I have to take an idea to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Amenuveva's got a nice one. Zara's got a nice one. Mariam's got a nice one. So I'm going to be quiet for a minute. I'm going to let you guys write. If you've already written one, you can write another. Nate, I like what you got there, but remember, one of the ways that you can hedge or avoid overgeneralization is to also provide a source. You can say, according to some, either some researchers or according to some policymakers, they feel that students who live on campus might be drinking beer every night. So that's another way. And again, just as we were talking about with Zara, you may want to think, well, maybe it's not really, obviously there are some students who are not going to drink, you know? So you might want to say, it seems that many students who live on campus would drink beer every night. Do you see what I mean, Nate?
Excuse me, teacher.
Yeah.
It was that good?
Yours was good, but I think you could actually make it you want to look at the statement and say, you're still saying it seems that all students who live on campus could drink beer every night or go to bed.
Some, I should just say
some, and you might even say many. You know,
many.
Yeah, you could. It depends what you want to say as a writer, but you don't want to say that. If you just say that students, you're saying all students.
All students, okay.
You can also add, according to some critics, many students who live on campus will drink beer every night. And that way, that's another way of distancing you from the claim, because you're saying some people might say something outrageous like all students were going to drink beer every night, or most students are just going to stay up late every night. But you can, so that's another way to hedge. Do you see what I mean, Nate?
Okay, yeah. Like according to some critics, students who live on campus, that's cool.
Yeah, or according to many critics, many students who live on campus could drink beer. So notice you can add more than one.
Okay.
It seems that a large, I would say number of people, Bradley, a large number of people are in favor of gun control. Well, again, can you find something more specific? Like, does having guns, you know, if there are more guns in the society, there will be more death, something like that. And then you can say, more guns equals more violence. That's a claim. How do you soften something like that? Or the claim that if we don't have guns, we cannot protect ourselves. How do you soften something like that? And Zara, for yours, again, I would think about what you're saying there. The internet or device can shut off suddenly at any time. I don't know if that would be considered typically, but you could say it is possible that the internet or device may shut off suddenly. Because it's not exactly typically.
Okay.
It appears that opponents to gun control strongly believe. And that's beautiful. Nice. Very, very, very good. Native citizens are inexperienced with immigrant problem. For this reason, they should work for it. Now, Mariam, are you saying all Native citizens are unexperienced with immigrant problems? Everyone? Me too?
I was mean, like I had, it relate to other sentence also, but I mean like generally or the majority of native citizens.
Well, that's what you should add then. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
So, because really when you're, and this is kind of what I was talking about with Nathan, if you just say students do this or citizens do this, the implication is you're saying all of them.
Okay.
So you're saying citizens don't understand immigrants. You're saying all citizens do not understand immigrants. And if that's not what you mean, you want to make sure that you, now you may find there's somebody who says all citizens don't understand, and then you would say, according to this source,
Okay.
and I would actually say, this source claims that all citizens don't understand immigrants.
Okay.
Chew, that's nice. It seems that some students will feel more stressful because of year-round schooling. That's so true, because imagine you just get no break. I think that's a great topic, by the way. Whether we should have 12-month schooling or 9-month schooling. Some people say you should have 1 month yes, 1 month no, or something like that. Now, Ming says, some agree that freedom should be restricted during a pandemic, but some oppose it. Now, Ming, that's more like a thesis statement. I want to know sort of for one of the reasons for that, you know, and it may be, you could say something like, people don't want to wear masks. That's a statement where all people don't want to wear masks.
Oh, okay. It's one of the reasons, right?
Well, then what you have to do is take that statement and make it not all people all the time. Because that's not true. I'll wear a mask, right?
Yeah.
But you could say, according to some critics or according to some experts, many people don't want to wear a mask all the time, or most people. Do you see what I mean? That you can't just say, try to find a way to look at a statement that could become an overgeneralization and soften.
Okay.
Doris, that one's nice. Some people believe that homework improves student achievement in the last room. Yeah. And once you put in the some people believe, you can then make an absolute statement, because you're not saying this is the fact. You're just saying this is a belief that people have.
Okay, and I have a question. So this statement should be at the end of the first paragraph?
Well, it doesn't have to be. I mean,
this
anywhere,
is kind of information that we have to just put in different places. Okay,
in the details in your paragraph, you don't want to be making statements that are overgeneralization.
Okay.
You don't want to do it at the end of this paragraph either, but even in the middle of it, you don't want to.
Okay, got it.
According to some critics, many students who live on campus could drink beer every night or go to bed late. Nate, that's perfect. Don't forget the word campus, but that's perfect. It appears that many people don't want to study face-to-face since wearing masks is not mandatory in the US. Excellent, Zara. By the way, I don't know if you guys heard, the university system of Georgia is now going to require masks on campus. Thank goodness. At all the universities, the public universities, which is good. Those who are in opposition of ECE argue that it has more harm than benefits. Nice, Mary. Oh, good. Well, I think we have some nice things there. So, but do you see how you have to sort of, everything that you write, you have to think about it as how your reader will view it. And if your reader thinks that you're making absolute statements that may not actually be true, that weakens your position as a writer and as a thinker. So you don't want to have your reader challenging how you're organizing your ideas. Okay, I'm going to move to another topic here before we break, okay?
John,
Any questions before we move?
I have a question. I have a request actually. How can I do to be your student for a long time and to be in your every class after finishing this class?
Oh, good question.
I want to be I love grammar also. I didn't love it before, but now I love it and I want to learn more about it.
You know, it's interesting because for everyone here, in their heart, they love grammar. They don't know. You don't know. You don't know. This is the one absolute we can stay. We all love grammar. All right, let's see what we can do here. I want to talk to you for a minute, about introductory paragraphs. And this is something from one of my books, which is about persuasive essays, but it's also true for your analytical essays. It's actually true for almost all essays. You want to arouse the reader's interest in the topic. You want to explain the topic, and then you want to provide your position. So the three elements, as we mentioned, they're the hook, an explanation of the topic, or if it's a controversy, that controversy, which is what you're writing about. And then the thesis statement containing your position. Now, you guys have all written some solid thesis statements here today because you're not giving your position. However, a little bit later in the semester, you are going to have to take a position. So, for example, Bradley, you're doing gun control. Is that right?
Yes.
Bradley?
Yes.
Are you doing gun control?
Yes.
So
Excuse me,
later
just have a
on, you're
question.
going to have to write an essay for me about your position. What do you think about gun control?
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to have to find out from Nathan about living on campus or not. So
Yeah,
I want
teacher,
you to just take,
we were supposed to submit today or yesterday. Yesterday.
it was
The
this
topic.
morning. This morning at
The-
9 a.m.
No, that's more. Yeah, I did that yesterday.
Oh, I see you're ahead of the game. And I apologize because I didn't change the due date until this morning. So if you submitted it and it said you were late, you weren't. So don't worry. Okay.
One question.
Yes.
In number 2, it's a clear explanation of the controversy.
Yes.
For me, I think it's clear. It's about online classes, so I think I don't have to explain it.
Well, you have to state what it is. And if you have a short statement that you think explains it, you don't have to go farther. But sometimes, for example, who's writing about the 12 month? Is that you, Chiu? You're writing about 12 month schooling?
Yes.
Now, so something like that, people may not know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So you have to think about your reader, and remember too that sometimes, especially as you get deeper into your own field, you may have things that you are very clear about, but you have to think, does my reader have the information? And then if they do, you can make it really short. But if they don't, you have to give more background information. And part of that can be here in the introduction, just explaining what the controversy is. So the controversy might be students living on campus versus living at home. And you just have to make sure that I understand, well, what's the controversy there? And then your background paragraph, you go into more detail about explaining. So this clear explanation of a controversy does not have to be long. Does that answer your question, Zara?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So here, I want you to take a look at this. Does anyone here play video games?
I was.
Yeah, I do almost every day.
Every day.
Almost. Not.
But you spend more time on my homework than on video games, right?
Yeah, only one maybe or two. No, no. I play only 30 minutes or 1 hour. That's it. A day.
On my homework?
No, the video game.
Okay. All right. Well, I want you guys to take a minute and read this short introduction, and then see if you can't answer those questions.
Excuse, I can't see your screen.
You cannot see my screen?
For me, I can.
Nate, are you on your phone?
Ah, yeah, that's, yeah.
Oh, shoot. I'm trying to think what I can do. Let me just read it real quick. There's a war out there, but it's not in any video game. It's an attack on teenagers who enjoy playing video games that include warfare and violence. There's a growing number of adults who believe that video games are turning their children into mindless, heartless, killing machines. They believe violent video games must be censored for the good of teenage players and society as a whole. While their arguments seem valid at first glance, upon reflection, this attack on video game violence in youth is both exaggerated and unnecessary.
Mhm.
I'm the biggest enemy of my son and my husband. I'm against their playing games. Both of them hate me sometimes.
So this essay is about you, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. If they hear this one, they would say, yeah, that's true. He's over exaggerating.
Well, notice too that this is the introduction. It's not to just the analytical report that you guys are writing. This is actually a persuasive essay that would present the elements of an analytical report, but also then propose or present one side as better than the other side. So what's the topic here?
The topic is the video games.
Violence on video
Video games, violence, or
Yeah.
maybe?
Well, it's about violence on video games, but what about violence in video games? Rather?
Oh, the violence and video games that make children and youngsters in a bad way and giving them bad perspective, that is not true, they say, the article say. Something like that.
Well, I think part of it too may be, does anyone see anything about censorship here?
Yes. If
So
like,
really, yeah, Doris?
if we choose censored violence
Yeah.
on video games,
Yeah, so there's something about, go ahead.
why we should censor it if, I mean, what is good or why is a really bad thing.
Right, so it's about video games and the controversy is, do we censor it or not? And what's the hook?
The war, they're trying to describe like that is a real war. So
Yeah, they're talking.
you don't have to play. If you want a war, go.
You get two wars, right? The one in the video game. And what does the writer feel? And I guess this is written by Mariam's son and husband.
That people is exaggerated.
Yeah, they don't want censorship.
Unnecessary, yeah.
Yeah, they don't want the censorship. Okay. Well, I just wanted to point this out, that these are things that you do want to try and have in your introduction. And as Zara pointed out, that clear explanation of the controversy, it doesn't have to be complicated. An introduction paragraph can be pretty short, but you do want to have something that engages the reader, makes it clear that the reader will understand what's going to happen in this essay and your position. Now I want to move, we only have a couple minutes, so I just want to move to one last thing to let you know. You have one last time writing in this class. Do I hear tears? Do I hear crying?
Yeah.
I know, Zara, I'm so sorry. This is the last one.
Excuse me, teacher.
Yes.
The time write, the essay we are supposed to write, was that the time writing for?
No, this time writing 4 is new, brand new.
Oh, what's this? So the essay we were writing about was now rough draft?
Yeah, that was the rough draft of your of an essay that you write and then you rewrite. Timed writing is where I'm going to give you just a short amount of time.
Jesus Christ. I
Yeah.
posted, I submitted my my
No, that's
homework.
good.
Time right?
Yeah.
Don't worry, we can move it around. Don't worry.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Your last time writing is going to be a summary response. As we mentioned in the last class, the summary response, you need to identify the author. You have to talk about what the main ideas are. You should make notes about your own ideas. You state the source at the beginning of this summary response. You refer to the ideas, the important ideas, in the same order as in the original. Oops. You paraphrase and use short quotations. And then in the response, you present your views, where you talk about what you liked, what you didn't like, what was missing, what could be, any suggestions or concerns that you have about the content. So, as we talked about last time, the way I would organize it, and I will suggest this to you for your timed writing, you're going to have an introductory sentence that identifies the source and the main point. You list the main ideas in the same order as the original essay with a little bit of information about each one. You can choose within that first paragraph a short quotation that illustrates a key point if you want. Then in the response, you're going to give your general opinion. This was a good essay. This essay was really missing a lot of information or something. You can talk about something you agree with, something you disagree with. Oops. And then if you think there's anything missing, or if you want to add your own ideas about the topic, that's in the response. Mariam actually sent me a wonderful summary response. So if she's willing to share it with you guys, you can talk to her. Hers is just very strong.
I would love, yeah, to share with them.
Yay, thank you. So
When is the due date?
you guys may wonder why. Why am I asking you to do this? Well, first of all, it shows that you understand the material. And a lot of times, especially in an academic environment, your instructors or professors want to know that you get it. You know what's going on. It also shows that you can respond critically to content, where you look at it and you don't just say, okay, you just told me the world's flat. I'm great with that. World's flat. Woohoo. You say, wait a minute. Maybe the world's not flat. You can provide your opinion on a topic effectively and academically. And then you can write objectively and you can effectively paraphrase. All of these are things that are useful when you're doing this. I will also add that it's a very useful intermediary step. So it's sort of a step in between finding out about a topic you have to write about and then writing your final document. Because you can, for each of your sources, you can do a version of this where you just write down, and for this, they don't even have to be complete sentences. You can just write bullet points, but you have that little document of your own for each one of your sources. And that helps you when it's time to write something more substantial. So the timed writing is due at the end of this week. It's your 4th timed writing. I have loved the things you've written for the 3 other timed writings. As I mentioned at the beginning of our semester, I feel it's very important to be able to write under pressure. I want you to be able to write things quickly and well, and I think you're doing that. In terms of the grades for this class, and I realize at this time of the semester, things can be getting crazy for people. So this is your 4th timed writing. I'm only going to count your 3 highest grades in the timed writings. So if this one can only improve your grade. So the pressure is off.
Way.
And if you are happy with your grade, and you can always check your grade in the grade book in iCollege. If you're happy with your grade for the timed writings, you can skip this one if you want. You don't even have to write it because it would go as a 0, but that 0 won't count. If you had another timed writing that was a very low score, and you get this one, then that low score doesn't count. Okay?
Oh,
So
okay.
this can only help your grade. And if you're feeling overwhelmed and you're okay with what the grade is you've got now, you don't have to do it. Or you can do it and you don't have to worry about the grade. Just do it and don't worry about what I have to say.
It's like optional. It's kind of optional.
Yeah, it's kind of optional because as long as you're happy with the grades that you already have.
No.
Okay? And this is a very common strategy in higher education here in the United States, where you will have a series of exams or papers, things like that,
But
and
I think,
they'll
I
drop
think it's,
the lowest grade.
but I think it is better. I think it's better to do it because we don't know what is gonna happen in the university. They can, and if we can have a feedback,
Well, I agree with you. I definitely think, and again,
they
as
can.
I mentioned at the beginning of the semester, the grades are not what really matter here.
Yeah.
What matters is, are you becoming a better writer?
Yes.
And
But the grade matter when if we fail, we don't pass.
oh yeah, that matters. That's right. You do want to pass.
Yeah.
But the difference between an A and a B,
Yeah.
I mean, it's I say that I'm very hypocritical because I say don't worry about grades, but when I was a student, I always wanted to get A's.
Yeah.
I drove my teachers crazy.
Yeah.
So, but even if you just do it just as a way to get feedback, I think that's the best. I mean, I think it's a great idea. So it's entirely up to you. So I'm going to give you, and you know, when you go in to open that up, you're going to get a choice of 2 different essays. You're going to have to read them, read one and write about it. Okay.
Okay.
And it's going to be in a short amount of time. Any questions?
Yeah, what do you about a sample in iCollege about this?
Actually, what I would recommend, there is actually, Mariam, would it be okay if I put yours up there?
Yes, yes, why not? I would be happy.
Because it's wonderful. I'll show you Mariam's.
Okay.
And there also there's I think it's in unit 17. There's the essay, and then right after the essay, there's a summary response. So that's also a good example.
It was helpful for me also.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll make sure that I put those in there for you. Okay, Zara?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, guys. So, oh my goodness. Was I going to let you out early today?
Yeah. Yes.
No, it's time.
Uh-oh. See, I just don't want to say goodbye to you guys. All right. So our homework for Sunday, the quiz on Unit 18, because I know you guys love quizzes. And remember, you can take it as many times as you want. Post at least twice in our discussion board for week 8. Do the exercises in Unit 18. And then, oh, that's your homework for Thursday, is to complete the exercises. And then for Sunday, I want you to just make sure that you understand the answers that you got. And if you have questions, come and talk to me. And then there's timed writing 4. And again, I'll ask you to submit it as a quiz and as the assignment. I'm going to check and make sure that everyone is able to access the feedback from timed writing 3. I think there may be a little problem with that. But I do have feedback for you. You guys did a great job. Are there any other questions?
No.
Please be safe, everybody. I'll see you on Thursday.
See you on Thursday.
Please,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
I want to discuss something after class.
Okay. Okay.
Me too. Me too.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Bye,
me
guys.
too.
Gotta leave.
Okay. Anybody who's staying, I'm going to stick you in. I've learned I'm going to stick you in a little breakout room all by yourself. Don't get lonely.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
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 Let's see what I can do here. All right. Menueve, you're going to 1. Anne, you're going to 1. Mariam, you're going to 1. Nate, you're going to 1. Okay, let's see here.
Ah, here we are again.
Ah,
Yeah.
bye again.